this article comes out for PFF.com, I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
So you guys get a free preview.
Get a free preview beforehand, but this one comes out Tuesday morning. Position rankings here. Let's start with the quarterback. I'm going to read the 5, and then we'll just touch on some highlights, touch on some big names here. Whatever. Number 1, Trey Lance. No, just kidding. Trevor Lawrence of Clemson, they're at 1. Zach Wilson of BYU at 2. Justin Fields of Ohio State at 3. I think there's a little bit of a gap here, and then it's Trey Lance, North Dakota State at 4, and then Mac Jones at 5 of Alabama. Am I right to say there is a gap between the top 3 and Lance, or is it closer than people think?
I think there is. Because you got 3 guys, they're the top 3 that's like all the tools that you want, and the performance is matched on the football field. Trey Lance, all the tools you want, performance not quite matched yet. Like, not quite there. So I do think
Mac Jones in an opposite tier where the performance has been great, but he does not have all the tools you want.
Yeah. And so the interesting one here, though, the debating one, the one's going to get debated, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, ad nauseum. Talk to my boy Bruce Gradkowski, QB guru here at PFF, Toledo legend.
He grades every single throw.
He's all on board with Zach Wilson.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. He said he loves Fields, the leadership aspect, thinks he's going to be great. Wilson's just, he's that guy. So, and that always makes you feel good when Bruce
Gradkowski's on board. Jordan Palmer on that interview. We numbered every single episode, by the way. We went back and numbered every single episode on the podcast to help you guys find them. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the Jordan Palmer interview, the guy said like Zach Wilson could be the second quarterback off the board. And at the time, we were like, whoa, really? And now watching more tape and comparing him to Lance and Fields, it's like, yeah, no, he probably should be the second quarterback off the board. Where do you feel comfortable taking Mac Jones? Because I think he's so hard to place. He's so hard to place in mock drafts because like you need a quarterback. It's the most valuable position. Let's take him top 10. But in a league that's driven by quarterbacks with tools and the ability to play outside of structure and make these off-platform throws, Mac Jones isn't that guy. How comfortable are you spending a top 10, top 15 pick on Mac Jones?
I pulled the greatest Mac Jones stat for the draft guide, which you guys are going to love this thing. So Joe Burrow last year, throws he had into a tight window, completions he had into a tight window, 124. Mac Jones, all of this entire year, 44.
Oh my God.
3 times as many Joe Burrow had. That's why you're not seeing the hype. Like, that's why it's just until you see a guy have to do that, I don't know if you could trust.
I'd love to hear that same number on Tua.
Yeah, I should have pulled that one too, but it's just a different level of comfort you feel because hitting guys who are wide open there is a lot of guys that can do that in the NFL right now. There's more than 32 if you could give them wide open receivers every single time and clean pockets. Mm-hmm. A lot of guys will put up very good stats. That doesn't happen a lot in the NFL.
And according to PFF's ball charting, he wasn't even as accurate with those open windows as Zach Wilson, as Justin Fields. There are other more accurate quarterbacks on our ball location charting in college than even Mac Jones.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like, I'm not going to hate on anyone for drafting a quarterback. If you go to our mock draft simulator, like you'll get an A+, I think, for any time you draft a quarterback, no matter who it is. It's a little broken right now, the logic there. But it's one of those things like you can set your sights higher.
Yeah.
We talk about the guys that get you to the place you want to go are the top 5, top 8 type of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Can Mac Jones be that?
The Jimmy G's of the world, you could win with them. You could win a Super Bowl with them. Everything has to be perfect. Is Mac Jones Jimmy G, where he's just like a fine star in the league, probably a top 25 quarterback in the league, but not a top 10? I think that's maybe more the range he'd fall in once he gets to the league. But it's tough to say. It's really tough to project out. And like I said, that offense is just difficult. So if you drafted him, if you are the 49ers and you drafted him, I'm not going to hate on that. I probably wouldn't if I was them, though.
You have a hot take here in the running back rankings. People are going to be upset. You have Travis Etienne of Clemson at 1, which I'm completely on board with, and I think you'll see a lot of people argue for that. Then, though, Javonte Williams, North Carolina, a PFF favorite. He's going to be a PFF favorite this entire draft process. He broke the record for forced missed tackles per attempt, and his yak per attempt is stupid. Eric Eager wrote a piece for the site looking at college to pro projections for Williams, and it's all nuts. Like, this guy has done very well from a predictive metrics standpoint. Then, at 3, you have the Alameda County's finest, Najee Harris Najee Harris of Alabama, and then Michael Carter, Javonte Williams' teammate, North Carolina at 4, and Kenneth Gainwell of Memphis at 5. Explain to me why you take Javonte Williams over Najee Harris.
I mean, because he's better. That's right.
Let's go.
No, but 75 broken tackles on 157 attempts this year. The highest rate we've ever seen from a running back in college football of 7 years doing this. And that's pretty insane. Like that, and he's got all the physical tools also. Like physical tools wise, size, speed, explosiveness. Probably better than Najee Harris. Like the reason you're leaning Najee Harris because he was just in the national championship game and it looked cool when he breaks tackles. Like,
he also has like touchdown record for days, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it's good volume stats, but like for as much as we know about the running back position being a product of those around you when you are playing behind the best offensive line in college football, you're going to look good. Like a lot of guys would have put up nice stats this year and gotten a lot of hype behind that Alabama offensive line. Javonte Williams did it by North Carolina offensive line that's not going to have nearly as many guys drafted. So I don't know. I'm not drafting either of them. We're probably going to get drafted because of our feelings about the running back position, but that's how I would want them, rank them.
You say that kind of condescending. The correct feelings about the running back position.
Well, I don't want to like say we're correct on stuff. That's like because
you don't think that we're right on that. You shouldn't take running backs like inside the top 20.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, I think so about that, but.
Najee Harris could go like 18. Like you could see Najee Harris go like as high as in the top 20. And I think I've heard from McShay, I think Jeremiah has said it, both these running backs, Etienne and Najee Harris, could go in the first round, which I just think is too rich.
And another thing about big backs, they look better in college. When you're 6'2", 230, 6'2" is also ridiculously tall for a running back. You get chopped down in the NFL. Derrick Henry's 245, 250. That's a different animal in terms of like size. He was going to be bigger than NFL linebackers too. But when you're 230, you're bigger than college linebackers. You're a grown man among boys. When he gets to the NFL, he's going to be the same size as the linebackers tackling him. He's going to be probably less explosive than most of the linebackers tackling him. Like that inbuilt physical advantage that makes it look awesome when you eat shots and just keep chugging in college isn't quite there when you get to the NFL. There's not a lot of like backs who win purely with that physical advantage, and the ones that do look like Derrick Henry and A.J. Dillon, where they're enormous and still physically imposing. 6'2", 230 is not going to be that at the NFL level.
Your mantra in college was eat shots and keep chugging, wasn't it? Or where'd you pull it?
It was just eat wholesale. It was I used to do eating contests back in college.
Did you?
I was good at those.
What's one of the wildest ones you've done?
Like you just, like go to the bar and they have like,
for volume or for like spice?
4-pound burger and 2 pounds of fries, something like that. And you get it for free. Those are, until you've had to stuff down 2 pounds of French fries, you don't understand how awful that is.
I don't want to.
I puked afterwards. I made myself puke afterwards because you feel like just absolute butt. And it was just like, usually when you puke, every other time when you puke, it like shoots out. It was just falling out because it was like mashed potatoes.
Dude, please stop.
That took a turn, but.
That is wild. All right, eat shots, keep chugging. Let's chug along here. Wide receivers. This is another one where I feel like, some people won't be on board with this. Wide receiver 1, Jamar Chase of LSU. Wide receiver 2, one spot ahead of Devontae Smith on the big board is Jalen Waddle. Then you have Devontae Smith, obviously. And then at 4, I think there's a gap here between Smith and this next guy. Yeah. Rashad Bateman at 4 of Minnesota and Chris Olave at 5 of Ohio State. I have a couple takes here. One, the earliest I'm taking Devontae Smith in the 2021 NFL draft is 6.
Oh.
That's the earliest I'll take him. And that's barring that all 3 quarterbacks, the first 3 on our board, and Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase are off the board. Mm-hmm. Then, so at 6 of the Eagles, if that happens, I'm taking Devontae Smith. Because there's a conversation between Smith and Waddle. We had that in the last podcast. What do you want at the receiver position? Do you want absolute juice or a guy that creates consistent separation like Smith has? Mm-hmm. And I'm sprinting the card in. So the earliest I'll take him at 6. I'm sprinting the card in for Devontae Smith if he does fall to the 9, 10, 11, 12 range, because I do think that there is a gap between some of these high-end guys like Smith and some of these other players at different positions, because it's not like a particularly elite cornerback class. There's not a Jeffrey Okudah in this class. The edge class we've talked about not being that good. Mm-hmm. At offensive tackle, I think it's Sewell, and then I take Smith over the other guys. I think the earliest I take Devontae Smith is 6, and even that is too low. I've seen mocks where, like, if you don't have him inside at 2 or 3, you're doing it wrong, and I can't get on board with that.
See, if I am, 2 is obviously crazy, but like Dolphins are a team that's gonna be rumored to Devontae Smith because the wide receiver position is not great. There in Tua in that connection. But if you could tell me, and I think there's a very good chance of this, so 4 and 5 in this list, Rashad Bateman and Chris Olave, you could tell me that I can get one of those in the second round. And I think you'll be able to. Don't put Don't quote me on that. We're too far out to say for sure, but I think you'll be able to get one of those two at the top of the second round. I'm not drafting a wide receiver in the first round. I don't think the gap between Jamar Chase and Chris Olave is so much to me that I would be willing to draft one of these wide receivers.
That's a good take. I think that's a great take.
Because I think those guys are exceptional in their own right in terms of they will get open at the NFL level.
I also have a take, and it's a disagreement with your board.
With my
Chris
board.
Olave is a better receiver prospect than Bateman.
Oh.
I like Olave over Bateman.
Eye of the beholder. I could see that. Olave's faster.
Better separator.
Maybe a little bit better route runner.
More consistency on the outside.
Very good ball skills. That gets underrated with Olave. Olave, though, not been great after the catch over the course of his career.
He's bad after the catch.
Slight guy. Kind of almost like Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is very good. You're not going to throw him a bunch of screens and ask him to break tackles. Like, that's not his game.
And I don't want to. The offense I'm running, it's Bruce Arians on steroids, baby. Our average depth to target of 14.
Bruce Arians might already be on steroids. He seems like the kind of guy who would just, try it just to see what's...
All right, let's show about tight end. I don't think that's that hot of a take either. And if anything, it's praising Devontae Smith. That the earliest I take him is 6. And not the latest, but like where I'm spreading the card in is that 8 to 12 range. Like, yeah, it's worth it at that value. Let's go. But I even like your take more that like, hey, the difference between these top 3 guys and the guys I can get the top of the second is not vast enough for me to avoid the position entirely, which I think Nate Tice has talked about that, about position scarcity, specifically at the receiver position, and how it's easier to find guys and it's maybe more replaceable than people give it credit for. All right, tight end here.
I disagree that's more replaceable, but it's just like there are a lot of body types that win.
Yeah. It's true. It's true in Tinder too. Tight end, Kyle Pitts.
Well, for you, maybe.
Kyle Pitts of Florida at 1. Pat Freiermuth of Penn State at 2. I like that. Brevin Jordan, the Miami kid, at 3. Hunter Long, Boston College at 4. The contested catch monster. Hunter Long, his entire highlight tape is just contested catches. And it's a big reason why he graded really well this year. And then after that, number 5, Tony Poljan of Virginia. He didn't sneak into the top 5 until just today. Jeremy Ruckert of Ohio State is returning back to Columbus to play in college. And we didn't mention this. Devontae Smith is taking his talents to Mobile.
Yeah, just to do interviews.
Pretty
lame.
I saw that come out on the Reese's Senior Bowl Twitter account, and I was excited because like Devontae Smith going against the best corner there is Elijah Molden. Mm-hmm. He's probably going to play like slot safety in the NFL. He was going to put on an absolute show, but I forgot that he like broke his thumb or something in the championship. So he won't be playing or participating in the drills, but he'll be interviewing with coaches and stuff like that. So we'll see Devontae Smith in Mobile. Well, we won't be there, but he'll be there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the tight end class.
After, honestly, you want the top 2, and then that's kind of it. You kind of like last year. There's just some guys. Brevin Jordan's an interesting name. He's tight end in name only though. Like the guy's 235, 6'2", 230. Like he's an H-back. He's almost. He's
Gerald
Najee Harris size. Like he's basically Najee Harris, but they call him a different position. Yeah, I mean we've said that there's not a lot of true difference maker at the tight end position. Kyle Pitts is 1. Freiermuth, I think if you're actually using your tight end as a run blocker a lot, which like that is where the NFL is going. If you actually have a tight end, he better be able to run block because if not, you want a slot receiver playing. Mm-hmm. That doesn't help you to have a guy who runs a 4.8 running the seam. That guy's never getting open. So. Like I said, you want one of the top 2. Brevin Jordan, if you kind of got a role for him in your offense, by all means. Then after that, it's just some guys.
Unfortunate. I think we say that about the tight end class every year. But
we'll do the
a little bit more about Pat Freiermuth. I feel like he's not a guy we've brought up a ton on the podcast because he did opt out of the 2020 season. But
midway through, he played like 4 games.
Oh, did he play 4 games? Oh, felt like he opted out. Because his 2019 tape, though, there's a lot to like. I mean, people make the comparisons to Gronkowski, and like you see some of it. Like he's a physical ass dude who is tough to bring down.
Yeah, he's not going to be. It's all about expectations. I think he's going to be more like old school tight ends. He's not going to be George Kittle. He's not going to be Travis Kelce. You're not going to line him up and ask him to win one-on-one. But very good ball skills, will win contested catches, and can offer some after the catch in terms of physically, like kind of like how Rob Gronkowski did, where he wasn't going to shake you, but a 265-pound man who's as strong as Freiermuth is a little difficult to bring down when you're like a 195-pound safety. So that he kind of wins in a very different way than Kyle Pitts, but can actually be your inline blocker.
Offensive tackle. Penei Sewell of Oregon at 1. Then we have Rashawn Slater, the Northwestern offensive tackle at 2, opted out this season. Christian Darrisaw of Virginia Tech. I watched all of Darrisaw versus Quincy Roche and all of Darrisaw versus Carlos Basham. And it wasn't even close.
Handled them.
Quincy Roche was awful in that game. And he went up against him, I think, 42 pass rush snaps. And I don't think had like a clear win on tape. Yeah. And Basham, I think it was only like a handful. But like still, Basham I thought was going to bully the kid. And just not the case. Again, those are the two best edge defenders Slater saw. Or not Slater. Darrisaw saw.
This tackle class is good. It is a very good tackle class. Darrisaw, you're going to hear a lot more about him. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he ends up going like top 10, top 12. I think he's that good.
So at 4, you have Tevin Jenkins. Sorry to flesh out the list. Tevin Jenkins of Oklahoma State at 4, and then Sam Cosmi of Texas at 5. The thing I wanted to ask you about Darrisaw after watching him, what's your opinion of his feet? Because you watch Sewell and you watch Slater, and the fluidity and the feet move so much quickly, much more quickly than Darrisaw. Darrisaw is a plotter a little bit.
Yeah, he's more of a guy that's so the guy who reminded me of just the way he moves as a prospect was Eric Flowers. Where like Eric Flowers is not a nimble big man, but as soon as he hits you once, like you're toast. Like he had reps against Roche where he hit him with one punch and like threw him to the ground with just a right paw.
There's a handful of those reps on his tape where he's like just bullying kids accidentally. He is
in ox, I think was the word I used to describe him in the draft guide, like where he is just more powerful than everyone he's going up against. And when you have that, no one's going through you. Like that is just a nice starting point. And while he's not terribly athletic and nimble, like he's plays with good balance. He's not falling on his turf. He's not overextending and trying to get that first punch in on guys and getting shed. Like he is kind of like I guess Ronnie Stanley is probably the best pass protector in the NFL. That's, I don't want to say in that mold, but like not super great feet. Ronnie Stanley's not the quickest dude, but he's very measured and not getting out of control ever. Like just a guy who could have played a different sport also probably and been good. You just see that coordination there.
Yeah, if you aren't nimble or quick, you better be balanced because you got to be able to withstand some of the blows there. But Darrisaw's tape is some of the most fun tape.
And he went against, like you mentioned, Roche, Basham. He went against good talent. Like one of the highest grade seasons we've ever seen in the tackle position. And it's not like Brady Christensen this year, 96 overall grade, didn't face maybe one guy who will play in the NFL. That's not what Darrisaw. Darrisaw was almost weekly. Like the ACC had some good edge rushing talent, and he handled all of them.
All right, let's jump to interior offensive line. Like that humble tease or subtle tease of the draft guide. That comes out Monday, January 25th. 2021 NFL Draft Guide comes out to Edge and Elite subscribers. Subscribe to make sure that Mike has a job in 2022, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the reason you do it.
That's still up in the air.
It's still up in the air. It always is. You didn't commit to your dry January. That doesn't show commitment.
I didn't get the extension I was looking for.
I'm scouting from an off-field perspective. The fact that you can't commit to a dry January.
No.
It can't commit to a girlfriend? Well, too soon. Interior offensive line. Let's look at Elijah Vera Tucker of USC at 1, Wyatt Davis at 2 of Ohio State, Landon Dickerson, the big, mean Landon Dickerson 69 as Quinn likes to call him, Alabama. 4, you have Creed Humphrey of Oklahoma, and then at 5, Ben Cleveland of Georgia. Those last two, I think both of those guys will be at the Senior Bowl, Creed Humphrey and Ben Cleveland. And I think Landon Dickerson's actually going as well.
So he has torn ACL, but he's the kind of guy to where when he gets drafted, every single draft analyst will be like, I love this pick. Everyone's going to love this. This is going to be every single person's favorite player because of just the way he plays the game. Like offensive line coach's dream. I think this is like his 5th year of college. He transferred from, where did he transfer from?
Miami. Or no, Florida State.
Okay. And he's just by all accounts, I mean, he's the guy who came in the last 2 plays to kneel it down at the end, suited up with a torn ACL for the national championship game. Just like everyone's going to love this guy, and with good reason. I think he's going to be a very good center. It reminds me of kind of like Ryan Jensen of the Bucs, where he's just the meanest dude, and you're going to want to go to war with him every single play.
And you need that along the offensive line. Yeah. You don't want to go on. You don't want to be on ESPN when Booger McFarland's talking about your offensive line like he was with the Steelers, calling you soft, tweeting out toilet paper emojis to the Steelers. You don't want that. Landon Dickerson is going to keep you from that level of disrespect because the guy's an absolute monster. And there's a clip I think in the who did they play before they played Ohio State? I'm blanking.
In the playoff, Notre Dame.
I dare you. Notre Dame. There's a play there where he's not dressed on the sideline and they're like running over Notre Dame and he's just like smiling on the sideline like some psychopath. That's what you kind of want. I think that's what you want in Lane Dixon.
But Elijah Vera Tucker is absurd too. On a massive Alabama offensive line, he's just like, he's built like a fridge. Like he's just from top to bottom is one width. His waist is as wide as his shoulders. It's a crazy build.
I could dream for that review. Yeah. Elijah Vera Tucker is the cream of the crop.
We do a lot of build scouting along the offensive line. Last year it was Jonah Jackson. This year it's Landon Dickerson.
What about Deontay Brown's build?
Deontay Brown.
The guard for Bama.
He's the Michelin man. That's the build he's got.
All right, let's move through the defense now. Defensive interior, Christian Barmore of Alabama arguably had the best two-game stretch of any prospect this season in the playoffs. Lee McNeil of NC State. Love that he's at 2, ahead of Levi and Wuzurike. I love McNeil a lot. And then you have Marvin Wilson of Florida State, who really fell down draft boards this season. Just did not live up to the hype after having a really dominant underclassmen campaign in 2019. Did not live up to the hype in 2020. And then you have Davion Nixon of Iowa at 5, who right now is being mocked a ton in the first round. Let's start there. What don't you see in Davion Nixon?
I just don't see. He's got the physical traits, but like he's not more athletic than Levi and Wuzurike, who's 3 on this list. Like he's not. I don't see Fletcher Cox-esque physical traits. Like he's not a special athlete for the position. I don't even see like some of the Neville Gallimore last year, who was I don't think he's going to test to that level of freakiness. He's definitely a plus athlete, but not to that level. And then not a lot of pass rushing moves. Like he has he plays physical. Like he plays the way you want. He has that attitude, but he's not even close to a polished product. And he's also 4th year of college. Like he's 1 year at JUCO or 2 years at JUCO and then 2 years at Iowa. Like I don't know. I just expected more with the hype he was getting throughout the year and like being on the awards list for the Buckus, or not Buckus Award, was the Bednarik Award. I didn't see near that. Like he's a solid player, but that's like a 3rd rounder in my book.
Edge defender, hot take there. Edge defender, we have
weak interior defensive line class too. We'll rank the classes at the end of all this.
Nice. Edge defender, Kwity Paye at 1 of Michigan. There's a rumor that we might be getting Kwity Paye on the podcast. It's a rumor right now. I'll see if it can get confirmed. Number 2, we have Gregory Rousseau of Miami. Number 3, Jason Owe at Penn State, one of my favorites. I also really like Azeez Ojulari, the Georgia edge defender. You have at 4, and then Boogie Basham, Carlos Basham of Wake Forest at 5. I think my take here is of all these guys, considering where they're currently being mocked, the guys I want are Owe and Ojulari. Because Paye and Russo are getting mocked high, and they both could be very good. They're toolsy, traits-driven prospects who don't have elite production. Kwity Paye better than Russo. Mm-hmm. But if I could get Owe or Ojulari at the top of round 2, maybe back end of round 1, I really like that value compared to maybe where Russo and Paye end up going.
Yeah. Paye is what? He's like 15th on the draft board, something like that.
Rousseau scares me, man.
I guess with this edge class, I would be scared to draft him. Like I think he is that talented. I think he's that good. But 1 year of college, and then was a guy who won more on the interior than on the edge. And yeah, that's nice to have at the NFL level. You can kick him inside in 3rd downs. But I think we saw with Jadeveon Clowney this year that you'd rather have a guy you don't have to scheme a role for. Mm-hmm. You don't have to kind of change your defense up to get him his one-on-ones. You'd love to just have a guy who will just going to win from the outside, and you don't really have to think about it too much. So yeah, if you're telling me like Rousseau at pick 15, or I can get, because it's a really deep edge class, or I can get someone like Jalen Phillips in the 2nd round, even though he has his off-field whatever, worried about his concussions. I'd probably rather have Phillips in the 2nd round.
Yeah, it's an interesting edge class because I do think Gregory Rousseau could get drafted that highly because he's this freak.
But you really like. How long if there's no combine, he's going to be one of the guys that I'm the saddest that I don't get to see, because I think he's going to check in with like 37-inch arm.
Oh, no, yeah. His length and his speed and all that is just nuts.
So,
and honestly, I mean, he's ranked as high as he is on our board for a reason. Because that length and that athleticism is rare. But you have to know going in.
And it makes your life so much easier.
Yeah.
It is easier to beat blocks when it's like a boxer. Mm-hmm. When you have long ass arms and you can beat the guy to the punch, it just makes your life easier.
But you have to know going in that in year 1, you're probably going to have to scheme a role for him largely. Yeah. And then if you can, you have to trust your position coaches, et cetera, to develop him into a better player in the NFL. Because he's not, you can't say he's done yet. While some of these other guys are already putting up really good numbers. I don't know how much better Carlos Basham Jr. is going to get in the NFL.
That's a lot of this edge class, though. It's a lot of guys where like you're going to have to you're going to have to teach them a lot. They might not be ready, but there's a lot of good athletes in this class.
Linebacker, you have Micah Parsons, obviously, at number 1 of Penn State. Then you have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah of Notre Dame at 2, Nick Bolton of Missouri at 3, Zaven Collins of Tulsa at 4, and Chaz Surratt at 5 from North Carolina. This is an interesting group because I think you could play all these guys at different positions. I think the two that are most similar are maybe Zaven Collins and Chaz Surratt playing a similar role in the NFL. But like Owusu-Koramoah, you're going to probably want on the like playing outside linebacker slot type of stuff. Micah Parsons, I've heard playing him more on the edge.
You want. Oh yeah.
Some want to play him more on the edge, and I think he's open to that as well. I'm interested to see that. Is Micah Parsons as an edge defender the best edge defender in this group?
Yeah.
Wow, like that. I think that in of itself tells me I need to find a role for him where he can play along the edge.
That's why I think he's getting hated on unnecessarily. It's one of those like out of sight, out of mind things. But like, he is truly a different breed physically than, and when you watch him blitz, rush the passer, he could do that at a high level in the NFL. Like that's why I said I think you take him first in this edge class. I really do.
Do you know the backstory on Micah Parsons' recruiting?
I don't. I've heard he was. I mean, there is some like off-field red flags though. Like he was.
There are some off-field red flags.
Scandal.
This isn't bringing up those. I don't know the specifics on those. But Micah Parsons was going to go to Ohio State. They recruited him hard. But in the recruiting process, he was there the same weekend in Columbus where game day was there, and they brought him on set and they introduced him to Kirk Herbstreit and different guys there. But there's a rule in NCAA recruiting where you can do a lot of things, but you can't on a recruiting trip introduce them to media for whatever reason.
Oh.
You can't introduce them to media. So they had to voluntarily pull out. Ohio State had to voluntarily pull out of Micah Parsons' recruitment to avoid like sanctions or whatever. And that's where he went ultimately going to Penn State. So he should have been at Ohio State, but they screwed the pooch there. All right. Cornerback, Caleb Farley at 1 of Virginia Tech. This cornerback class is interesting. I kind of want to have a conversation here. But Caleb Farley at 1 of Virginia Tech. Patrick Surtain at 2 of Alabama there. And then J.C. Horn, South Carolina at 3. Asante Samuel Jr., 4 from Florida State. And then Tyson Campbell at 5, the guy from Georgia. I think Caleb Farley, so some people are having the conversation between Surtain and Farley. I don't think it flips for me. Watching a lot of Surtain back, like there's 2 routes against Ohio State where he goes up against Chris Olave, and you see guys that have polish, guys that can run routes can turn Patrick Surtain. You still see some of these concerns that you saw with Trayvon Diggs. He's better than Trayvon Diggs. I get that. But like a long, not elite athlete.
That's the thing.
Like I don't think, does he crack 4.5? Does he crack go into the high 4.4s? I don't know. And that I think you have enough concerns for, to where I like Farley, that prototype type of guy, freaks list, athlete, long. And then I have Surtain. And then after that, I think you have a different conversation with who's the 3rd, 4th best guy.
Surtain's very good. Like I'm not I don't want to act like I'm hating on him. Like I just feel like we're low on a lot of these Alabama guys. I'm not trying to hate on Alabama guys, but like when you're not that elite level of athlete, it's just going to show up more at the NFL level. When you're, and it already showed on some go balls. I think Josh Palmer from Tennessee.
Yeah, that's the other game where you turn on the Tennessee tape. Josh Palmer was on him.
Yeah, and so give me the guy that has the same length, same size, maybe not as polished, but then runs the 4.35 like Caleb Farley, and still is like pretty damn good in terms of his ball skills and a lot of the other things. So, yeah, I still am going to lean Farley, but Surtain's good.
Like, Surtain's still very good. I just don't think I'm not willing to put him over Farley or even really have the conversation. And then I think J.C. Horn is also...
We just had the conversation.
Well, we did just have the conversation. Damn it. I think J.C. Horn's very good. I like having him over Asante Samuel Jr. because it's more likely that he plays on the outside. And then you obviously have Tyson Campbell there, who's another toolsy guy that got beat a ton, but he's probably a better athlete than Surtain. Like I think Tyson Campbell is pretty rare in that regard. He's got some special traits.
I think Samuel still plays on the outside though. You
really?
said Horn more likely plays outside. You can move him inside. To me, he reminds me a lot of, just watching him the way he plays the game, Brent Grimes.
Ooh.
Hopefully he comes without Miko.
You never know.
But you never know. But yeah, Asante Samuel, I think he can be that type of guy in your defense. Peak Brent Grimes is pretty damn good. So.
Do you remember Brent Grimes got the nickname Optimus Grimes when he shut down Megatron in like a game?
I do not. That's kind of dope,
great.
Though. But he also had one of the coolest interceptions ever, real early on in his career.
I think that was that against Megatron?
Where he just flew.
I think that's where he earned the name.
Was it?
Maybe it was. I don't know. I was like 10.
But that's going to be the confident draft guy.
That's hot.
Right.
All right, safety. Last one here, and then we'll close out the podcast. Trayvon Morg of TCU at 1. Then you got our Darius Washington of TCU at 2. At 3, Hamza Nasruddin, Florida State. 4, Elijah Molden. Calling him a safety, I think, is fair. He's probably going to play, slot safety role in the NFL. And then you have Andre Cisco at 5, which is honestly a damn shame because he should be at 5, but he is so much more fun than the 5 rank. I mean, he is an absolute roller coaster in every way, shape, and form. He's
the Marcus Peters of the safety position.
That's a great take. He could run in the 4.3s. Like, he is that fast. His top line speed is nuts. He's going to at least run in the low 4.4s. He's an interesting prospect. I'm excited about the safety group. There are some guys here that like you could have some fun with in the defense.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting guys. I'm still a fan of the safety class. I think it's one of the better classes defensively in terms of position groups, which we'll talk about at the end here. But there's no real guy. Like, Morig's the closest, and I still don't think he's like a perfect prospect by any means. I don't think he goes top 15. I'd probably draft him somewhere in the 20s. But there's no real like Jamal Adams in this class, Derwin James. There's no one like that. But I do think day 2 is going to be a lot of guys that I'd love to stockpile in this safety class in terms of the different body types you can get.
I think that's a very good take. I mean, Elijah Molden, arguably the best slot corner in this class. Like, from a production standpoint, he is. Like, he was dominant in the slot for Washington. I'm excited about potentially adding him to a defense. And just like we talked about with the Bucs, just invest in the secondary, man. Grab these different guys. You need to get better in coverage. We said it at the top of the podcast. The best teams in the NFL stop the pass and throw the football well. Investing in some of these guys on day 2, like a Molden, like a Cisco, that's where you want to be. Let's now
I just watched that Brent Grimes pick. It was against Drew Brees back in 2009.
Oh, wow.
That was the highest I think I've ever seen anyone jump on a football field. He was flying in this.
I need to see that.
You got to check it out.
All right. Well, let's rank the strength of classes here. I'll let you take the rank.
All right. So the strength of the classes, this is like the position groups historically, how strong these positions are. And it's a good year for the passing. Quarterbacks, this is a relatively historically good class, in my humble opinion. Quarterback's great. Like, this is a very good quarterback class. Take one of those top guys. Then wide receiver. Then offensive tackle, I think. And I'd say interior offensive line is at 4 here. I'd say those are very, very like classes that you don't see once every 4 or 5 years. Now, wide receiver, we just saw one last year. But like, I don't think if you go ahead and look maybe a little bit towards 2022, there ain't a lot of talent. Like, we catch, everyone loves to say, oh, you say that every year about this class, that class. No, 2022 is not going to be. It does not look like a good wide receiver class on paper. This is the one you want to take part of. So wide receiver, OT, interior offensive line. And I think there's kind of a gap. Those are the classes that you want to get in on. And then edge, safety, linebacker, cornerback, tight end, running back, and then defensive tackle is dead last. It's a bad defensive tackle class.
Cornerback that low is also concerning because you want to see, when you're looking to draft high positional value in the first round, you want to see some guys in the first round. Where's the line for first round caliber corners here? Is it Farley and Surtain and that's it? Would you take Horn at the back end of the
probably
first?
Horn, and yeah, that's probably it then. Samuel's just kind of outside, just kind of top of the second round.
And Darion Kendrick was top 30 on our board before he decided to return to school?
Yeah. The returning to school thing could be a bitch this year. Seniors have until
like March.
And to say,
which I think speaks volumes to there being no combine.
Yeah.
Like, if you're saying seniors don't have to, commit to the NFL or going back to school until March, like, you're not going to hold a combine, are you? Like, I can't imagine you would.
Yeah.
I saw that article that came out recently saying like they're going to pretty much do everything to not do one. Have a lot of remote stuff. I think you're going to see a lot of guys running 4.1s, 4.2s this year. Elijah Holyfield comes out in this class, probably runs like a 4.4. Like, honestly, that's probably where he's at.
God damn. That was still
bonkers.
Was it 4.9?
I think it was like a 4.8, 4.9. And then his pro day ran like a 4.75. I was like, oh, bet.
It was like the stiffest 40 also I've ever seen.